Hi, hi, hi. It's so nice to see everyone again virtually. You're on Music and Chat with Shirley Ong, and it's a good morning from me to you from the East Coast of USA. Please say hi in the live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, and don't be backward and coming forward. And remember to put any questions you may have in the live chat so that I may attend to them as the stream moves along. I got a surprise for you today, and today's surprise is that friends of mine from Moogfest07 are here. And Moogfest07 was the fourth installment, in case you're curious about this, which took place on Saturday, September the 22nd, 2007. The fourth installment of Moogfest. And the fourth one that was held in New York City at B.B. King Blues Club and Grill. So I want to begin with a little short history, and it goes like this. Concert promoter and producer Charles Carlini was approached by Moog Music's New York representative with the idea of an event to celebrate Bob Moog's 50 years in the music industry. A Moogfest, if you will, they suggested, and Carlini went on to produce 5 of these in New York City before the festival moved to North Carolina. So Carlini had been working with Rick Eckerle at Chesky Records, where he produced a series of albums for their in-house label. Rick was recording session coordinator and second engineer. So when time came for Carlini to pick a stage manager, he thought Rick was the obvious choice. And Rick went on to manage all 5 New York City Moogfests, it seems, including the 2007 edition where my band and I played along with the guests joining us today. All the performers of the 2007 Moogfests did reunite on Music and Chat in 2021. And this live stream is archived. All right, so today, again, my special friends joining us today, and you can wave to everyone, my special friends, with an applause to boot.
There we are.
So we have Neil Alexander. I'm gonna applaud you, Neil.
Hi everyone. Good morning.
And Tom Brislin.
Hi there, everybody.
We have Erik Norlander.
Hello.
Andre Chomley. And of course, stage manager Rick Eckerle.
Am I there?
Yes, you're there.
I'm not seeing me. That's okay.
You're there.
1 second delay.
Yes. So, artists, I thought instead of me introducing you, you should introduce yourselves instead and tell us who you played with that night. Perhaps it was your own band that you played with, and who you play with or work with now. So give us a quick summary. We'll start with Neil, followed by Tom, Erik, Andre, and finally Rick. You can tell us what you're doing now as well. So let's begin with Neil. Neil.
Good heavens. Well, let's see. Okay, going back 2007. At the time, I have a band called Nail, which I have started in 1999 and is still going. And so Nail. I had met through a mutual friend, Herb Deutsch, and I had done a couple of lectures out at Hofstra University with Herb and sat in on his classes. And they were celebrating Herb. I think he was up for an award of some kind. Somebody else may remember that better than I do. But it was Herb and Gershon Kingsley, I think, were up for awards. And so Herb chose Nail as his backup band. And I met Charles Carlini through someone else. And one thing led to another. And we ended up, I was, astonished to end up on the stage with all these amazing other artists, like all of you guys, of course, and Thomas Dolby was there, and what's the name from Zappa? I'm old. I can't remember
Don
names.
Preston.
Don Preston, yes.
Oh, yes.
And it was quite the thing. Anyway, Herb sadly passed away a few years ago. But Nail continues, and I've been recently performing with another band which I joined in 2008, actually, called the Mahavishnu Project. And I continue to work with them. We just completed a tour backing up David Sanctius and double billing with David Sanctius and Will Calhoun and their project, which is an amazing tour. We did 2 weeks out. I also have a band called Mr. Gone, which does the music of Weather Report and Headhunters. And yeah, as a working musician, I'm just like a gazillion pickup gigs and studio work. So, you know, like all of us, basically, or at least all of me. I don't know about the rest of y'all. Anyway.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah,
Okay.
Herb and Gershon were given the Moog Innovation Award according to
Yes.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. Good old Wikipedia.
Thanks, Neil. How about
You're
Tom?
welcome.
I played with my band Spiraling at Moogfest07. We were somewhere in between the lines of indie rock and synth rock and a little bit of prog and power pop. And I'd been when Moog came back in the 2000s, I became a Moog artist. And we were trying to get from the first Moogfest that we wanted to be a part of it, and fortunately we got on in 2007. Sadly, the band broke up the next year, but we still get together once in a while. And since that point, I had moved to Nashville, as you know, Shelley, and I did a solo album called "Hurry Up and Smell the Roses." Came back to New Jersey, which is where I'm from, a couple years later, and I did what was to be Meatloaf's final tour. I was playing piano for him. I played with him back in '99, and it was the first time I had actually worked with him in 15 years. So that was sort of what I didn't know was going to be the final tour, but I was actually brought in for that. And then a couple years later, I was asked to join Kansas. And so I've been with Kansas for 6 years now, and I'm actually the band's musical director now, and they even throw me a couple lead vocals once in a while.
Wow.
But mostly they keep me busy with all the keys.
Well, 6 years, time flies.
Yes, really.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. So I wanted to say hello to a couple of our friends in the live chat, Andrew Collier and Dreadrat Earth Dragon, our friend from the Netherlands, who always tunes in when I stream in the morning in the USA or in the evening in Asia, Southeast Asia at least. All right, next on the list. Who's the next on our list? Erik.
All right. So I'm Erik Norlander. If I think back 19 years ago, let's see, I would have been about 12 at the time. I played a solo set at Moogfest, and I seem to remember I played after T. Lavitz and before Jordan Rudess, so no pressure. It was great, yeah, just playing with this amazing group of musicians. As far as who else I played with, I had a band called Rocket Scientists, a prog rock band. I have another prog band called Dukes of the Orient with John Payne from Asia. It's kind of an Asia spin-off with that name, of course. My wife, Lana Lane, is also a symphonic rock singer. We've done about, 14 or 15 albums together over the years. And I've done a bunch of solo albums and that sort of thing as well. And as of about 2 years ago, I've been the director of product development at Moog Music. So that's where I am right now. I'm actually at Moog headquarters in Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
We're making cool new things like this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Andre, on to you.
Yeah, Andre Chumley here, and I'm the one at nighttime in Beijing. I am a musician, electronic musician, and 2007, I think was the second one. I can't remember, but did a couple of the Moogfests with Don Preston's Akashic Ensemble. So I was in the trio with Don, and my late partner Sherry Josney was percussionist, and we toured a lot. And I think this was in the middle of the tour. We figured out somehow to put this in the middle of a tour. So we were playing as a trio, and Don had a Voyager, and I was doing guitar synth through a Voyager, triggering a Voyager, not through a Voyager, triggering a Voyager. So I remember that, and I remember all the other artists everyone mentioned, which was great to see. And I remember Thomas Dolby. I remember his software went crazy. That was memorable. But I currently have a solo electronic project called We Are Ants to Them. So I tour sometimes solo, and I usually music business world stages work for other people. I'm a tech, a tour manager. I tech keyboards, guitar, bass, all kinds of things. I teched for many years for Eddie Jobson, who we all know. So a lot of keyboard teching for him, and also for James Francis with Pat Metheny. So do a lot of keyboard work, and I'm currently Pat Metheny's guitar tech, and there's some synthesis there because he's using some guitar synth, triggering electronics and hardware, and this old analog Roland guitar synth. So those were the things you. Moogfest, what do we do, and what do we do now? I think I got most of the points, but there you have it.
Thanks, Andre. Rick Eckerle, you're the last one.
Okay. Yeah, I met Carlini through Chesky Records. I got hired there. I had gone to the Institute for Audio Research for 8 months, and I got hired to do a load in, like $50 for the week, a load in on Monday and a load out on a Friday. And on the Monday, we were loading in. Sandy Palmagrassi was the head engineer. I was just gonna help her, and she saw I knew my way around equipment. She says, I can't promise you anything, but if you stay the week, you'll get an album credit. So I said, sure, that's what you're looking for, the first, something like that. And I did that. At the end of the week, I got hired a week or so later, and then she got fired. She got in some argument with one of the brothers, and I wound up being the guy. I just was who was there. I had like very little experience, but I started running wires and all, and learning gear, Gen X, all kinds of stuff. Sony would make stuff, send it to us, and we would see if we could use it. And that's how we got Robert Moog in the thing. And Randy, I told you this in setting this, Randy Fuchs was the connected with Robert. He was their representative. He used to play bass with me. We had a band. We were the house band in the other end when Elvis died, and Randy was on bass. It's a small world. So Carlini did, a bunch of stuff. He took me a lot of stuff. We did Ennio Morricone eventually, but the Moogfest, you know, I just was running wires. You know, there was no, when you were asking me, do you have anything? I was so busy. There was no pictures then. You know, you didn't have pictures every second in your pocket. I was working. I found one of you. You found my stage plot. That's how you tracked me down, I think. But now I play some songs around town. I still write songs, I play different instruments, lap steel, mandolin, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a keyboard player. And that's the deal. I got a broken wrist here after doing a David Johansen benefit. But yeah, it was great. I love that stuff. I could tell you, I'll get stories for you when we tell stories.
We'll get to the stories. Thanks, Rick. And I'm sorry about your broken wrist, I think you're saying. But I'm sure you heal good. You need to heal good because you need to work.
I got it.
And speaking of memories in visual form, yeah, it's been difficult to track down good quality videos. So we've got some pictures. And at this point, I want to thank Rob Olowinski, who was a photographer that night. By chance, he was there with a friend, and being a professional photographer, he took some really good shots. So the ones that you see, which I will display, are from Rob, and I want to thank him again. There's some that came from Neil, I think, and some from Erik, so I'll let you know who's contributed which photographs, but let's just move this forward. And again, we know the details because it's been 18 years since 2007, is that right? Something like that. So memories get vague, as Neil was saying earlier on. You know, I'm getting old. I can't remember everything. Who was it that night playing? So we're gonna count on each other to fill in the blanks, I hope. I'm trying to figure out where my memories are stored. I'm having difficulty myself, so you'll have to help me. But never mind, we'll have a good time anyway. And let's dive into the behind the scenes moments from that show, and such as, all right, here's what I've scripted. Such as, what backstage challenges did Rick face? Were there tricky audio issues or a precarious setup that needed saving? Perhaps the musicians were the ones who were behind the technical chaos, but they've kept these under wraps because they're too shy or too embarrassed. Maybe, I don't know, but we will find out if we can find out.
The weirdest part of the Moogfest was Keith had the original Moog. They were these gigantic. When you see an old movie, they're like phone trunks from the 1930s and 40s. He had 3 of them. They barely made it in. They could barely clear the stage to the ceiling.
I hear you.
And he was only one guy in the world alive that knew how to program that thing. Keith had brought the guy, because we're doing sound checks, you know, you're hoping, okay, your stuff's good. So I said, well, what do we do with this? The guy said, well, I hit this button and I come back in 20 minutes. And that's exactly what happened. He hit a button. It started light, boop, 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 crazy sounds and stuff. 20 minutes later, he said, it's fine. That was ridiculous. We had to keep it on. It had to be out on a boat past 9/11 or whatever the reason was. They wouldn't let it in for 90 days. It had to be out of New York City on a boat. And I guess they inspect things, you know, before something like that can come in. So he had getting it shipped and getting everything, you know, you don't expect that to be dealing with that.
So Rick, since we're on, you know, the first Moogfest, I believe so, 2004, that was when the huge modulars entered. So do you recall when you started working with Carlini, if he gave you certain instructions or requirements that he entrusted you with, you know? Because after all,
like you said, I'd have notes on who needed what. Like who needed how many DI boxes, who needs this, like the linkage. and all. There was a lot of that going on. I said I have binders for jazz at Lincoln Center and Chesky, but I didn't find any Moogfest stuff.
Yeah, but did he give you like his vision? Did he say, Rick,
No.
no matter what happens, the show must be like this? Did he do anything like that?
He wasn't hard. He was easy to work with. Like I think he got direction from the Moog family.
Oh,
Like that, there's a story there later on. But I think they told him what they kind of wanted.
Oh, so
he just relied on me to hook it up. And like you said, B.B. King had a front of house guy, so that made it easy. And by the fourth one, they had flying faders, so it was great. I didn't have to keep sketch maps of everybody's setup across how many channels and say set it up.
So speaking of your plot, I'm going to show the plot right now. So we're going to switch screen to first the gang. You can see. Hold on, I'm going to make some adjustments here.
I got one here.
So you can see a picture of the marquee of B.B. King Blues Club and Grill in New York City. And of course you can see our headliner as Thomas Dolby. And then I have our stage plot. As I'm showing a stage plot, I want to encourage viewers in the live chat. Again, if you have questions for the group, please put them in a live chat and I will present some good ones to the group to deal with, so you know what to do, please. And to our new viewers, hello, nice to have you here. Let us know where you're tuning in from and how we may address you, so I can call you by proper name and not 1256Z, that kind of thing. If you know what I mean, unless that's how you want to be addressed. Anyway, so here's the stage plot. The copy that I have, I don't know, I get really organized sometimes, and I hold everything. I put them in a filing system so I can find them eventually one day. So this is my copy of the stage plot, and you'll see number one, I guess that's the first act. That's me and my band Xenovibes. You see we're on stage right the very corner, if you recall where I was, everybody. Spiraling's number two at the other extreme on stage left. You see spiraling, and I think Tom's name is there as well, number two. So we know we can be reminded where he was positioned along with his band. Then we have Don Preston, number three. You see Don somewhere to the left of center, stage left of center. Number three, Don Preston. Andre will probably remember where he stood. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And then we have Neil, number six. Neil, do you see yourself? And then we have Erik, very close to spiraling, on number 7. Erik's on number 7. So Rick, while we're all scrutinizing the stage plot, as a stage manager, what are your foremost concerns, or what's the main concern you have when you're stage managing? Because it all looks so easy, but it's not.
Yeah, you have to be ready with backups. You do sound checks and everything, and that's why you do that. But shit always happens, and that's what makes you valuable. If you're ready and you kind of know this could be you foresee a little. This could be a mess. This is a tough setup or whatever. People's gear breaks down, especially like this. Some little card goes wrong, that's it. So just like that, having a good backup, and how you deal with the artists too. I mean, I play myself and will run bands, but I mean, I've seen guys that I can't believe how they treat people. Like I'm not that way, so that helps a whole lot. You know, if
I
you have a
hear
good attitude.
I understand. I have a picture again from Rob. Thanks, Rob, once more, of everything on stage, but from the side view. And question from Rick for Rick again. They had in-house engineers and stage help, and you were the outsider. You were the one brought in by Carlini to make this happen. How is it like working with the in-house folk? Did you have difficulty communicating artist requests to them? Were they quite amenable?
The first three, the guy was the same guy pretty much, and he was good. The last guy, I remember his name was Val, I think, and he was a bit of a hard-ass Russian. You know, it's just like I know, like he knows what to do, and no, this is what you got to do. That was unexpected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, the first few years were great.
Do you?
That was great. Everybody was excited to have this happen. You know, like it was just, you know, I guess Robert thought it up essentially, but everybody was excited. You know, look at all these people that you're going to get together with.
Yeah.
So it was incredible, exciting.
So I have a question. I'm sure there are times when, you know, it was either their decision or the artist's preference. Did you cite the artist over the in-house team, or you had to be very diplomatic and come up with something in between?
I was never in a squeeze, never. So that probably didn't happen. Or like you said, I would surely, if there would be a reason, you'd explain it to the artist, hopefully, and it was just a matter of, like I say, sometimes you have somebody who, I don't want to do that, I'll just put it direct, you know, so a lot of that crap went on. You know, just put it in the board and we'll no, they don't get it, you know. But I never was in a bad spot, you know, but I'd probably go with the artist. Unless it was something he didn't understand and I could explain.
Got it. This is a pic of Rick on stage. The only one I found, thanks again to Rob Olowinski. And he's flanked by, I believe it's Thomas Dolby to his right and Jordan Rudess, of course, to his left.
And there I am with that's me. My head's always down with papers.
Yeah. Rick, you haven't aged a bit.
Yeah. Don't tell.
At this point, I want to say hi to my friend Ben Ang, tuning in from Singapore as well. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you. So, I have pictures again from Rob of Neil. This one is Neil with his Roland AX keyboard controller. And I wanted to find out, Neil, where did you tap the sounds from?
At that time, I actually had just retired from this other band. It was called The Machines, Pink Floyd tribute band.
Right.
And I had a big keyboard rig with them, but I for my other gigs outside of them, I was using the AX7 and about 10 spaces of rack gear. Now, it's interesting to note, I didn't really remember what rack gear I had because my gear had undergone a lot of changes over the years, but I could see on the stage plot, it says 6 space plus 4 space connected together. And I remember exactly what that was. And I had also, so I was driving a Roland XV5080, probably like a Wave Station SR, maybe Korg 05RW, a couple of mixers, tech units, maybe some old Roland modules. I don't really remember. I remember exactly what was in the rig at that time, but the XV5080 was my main brain. And I also was using a borrowed Voyager from my friend Rob Smith, and shout out to Rob, who was introduced me to Herb and many other people. But I borrowed his Voyager, and I did in the middle of my set, I had the band stop, and I did like a 2-minute just Moog noise solo, which was really fun for me. And then Herb came out, and we backed up Herb on a couple of songs that he had written. And yeah.
Thanks,
Oh, I
Neil.
can see. Wait, I can see the picture there. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
top rack has the Eckerle and a line 6 delay unit, which was a big thing for me at the time. Still have that unit. It's really great. And Motu, some kind of Motu mixer interface. Lexicon Jam Man, Motu MIDI timepiece. Yeah, I had tons of crap in those days, man.
How did you get it into? Where do you live, by the way, or where did you live in 2007? And how did you get all the gear in?
I'm still in the same house that I was in at the time. I live up in the Hudson Valley, in between Peekskill and Poughkeepsie, right where Route 84 crosses the Hudson, if you know the area at all, in a little town called Newburgh, New York. I've been here since '99. And yeah, I just drove in my little van, my minivan, and I had a buddy help me get all my gear in. And that was it.
Wow, Neil, you're brave.
Well, you know, that's the only really option that was available to me. So the thing I can remember, because I had played BB King's with the machine many times, the thing that always stands out to me was it takes an hour and a half to drive to the West Side Highway and 42nd Street, and then it takes another hour and a half to go from West Side Highway to 8th Avenue. So, yeah, exactly. Rick knows what I'm talking about.
Thanks, Neil.
Sure.
Before I move on to the next person's picture, Rick, can you be careful with paper scratching the microphone? Because when you touch your microphone, when you touch the microphone, it creates a loud noise.
Okay.
So just be aware. Thanks, Rick. All right, Tom, you're next. Here's a picture of you. And I'm very sure these are the instruments you played.
Yeah. I guess that confirms it. Yeah, the Little Fatty was the hot new stuff at the time. Since I had started developing the relationship with Moog, and they came with the Voyager, and I got the 50th anniversary Voyager, and I was like super stoked about that. But Spiraling was a band that I was fronting. And like what Neil was just saying, I was schlepping gear all the time, everywhere to all the clubs we'd play. So I usually would have 2 keyboards. When I played at the time, I think it was a Nord Electro 2, and I had a Moog Rogue. That was the original. That was my first Moog, and I love that synth so much. In fact, I used to have like patch sheets on the floor, and I would try to change the sounds in real time while leading a band and singing, and it was a handful. So in the early 2000s, I had started using, it was a Novation K Station, this little 2-octave synth, which had presets, and I felt like I was, it was a luxury. But that, as cool as that synth was in its own right, it was the Moog sound that I was missing. And I kept talking to everybody at Moog I could for since the Voyager came out, saying, can we, are you ever going to do like a smaller one, like something like, something more like the Rogue or the Prodigy or one of those types of Moog synths that I really like. And eventually, when the Little Fatty came out, they're like, well, you weren't the only one requesting something a little more compact. And I remember I got the Little Fatty to review for Keyboard Magazine. And I looked in the owner's manual, and it had a foreword and said, we'd like to thank the artists who helped in the consult in the design process. And my name was in there. And I was like, wow, is it just because I kept telling them to make a smaller keyboard? But that definitely increased the emotional attachment, if you were. So I was happy that they had them at the Moogfest for me to play. And as keyboard players, it's rare that you go to a gig where there's a back line with this luxurious array of synthesizers and that you get to pick from. So I was pretty stoked about that.
I was gonna ask, so the Little Fatty and the Kurzweil, they were borrowed items and you didn't bring in any of your own, did you? Or is that yours?
I'm looking at the picture. This, I think that was backlined.
Okay.
Definitely the Kurzweil was. I never owned
Yeah.
one. I played BB King's a number of times, and I remember seeing those Kurzweil PC-88s there.
Yeah.
I think I played them, so that might have been something that BB King had. But I know that the guys from Korg were there too, bringing a lot of backline stuff for people
Wow.
to use, and obviously we had all the Moog stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Tom.
Backline?
Yeah, what's that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, I don't think I did as well till much later I discovered. But that's interesting. Erik had some borrowed items as well. Erik, it's your turn.
And so I think I may have traveled the farthest. I came from Northern California to do the gig. And I brought my Elisa's Andromeda with me. And yeah, look at that picture. Okay, and so I remember using a Voyager, which was, yeah, part of the provided backline. And that looks like probably the same Little Fatty that Tom used. And then on the other side, the Andromeda on the top, and then probably that same PC-88 that Tom used as well. I just had one piece that had like a piano section in it, so I needed some kind of additional piano. And that was the rig. And I remember on both of those Moog instruments, I wasn't really familiar with either of them at the time. I'd used a Voyager at a Prague festival called Rosfest earlier in the year. And both at that festival and at Moogfest, they didn't make any presets or anything. I just, wiped the panel and like dialed in the sound and just treated it like a mini Moog Model D. It just, dialed it in real time, which is what's so awesome about that instrument. The Andromeda was sort of my main synth in those days, and I was one of the developers of that back in the late '90s, and that's actually how I came to know Bob, because when I was putting together the development team, I wanted Bob to be the electrical engineer, the design engineer, but he was busy with working on the Voyager. So as much as he was interested in it, he didn't have the time to do that. But we kind of stayed in touch, and he was really interested in that synth as it came together. But yeah, the show, it was pretty amazing to see how we had so many acts just back to back, and so much shared gear, and I remember it went really, really smoothly. That's a testament to Rick and the way he ran the whole thing.
Thanks, Erik. Yeah, the amount of gear on stage was amazing. In case you've forgotten how much gear there was on stage, I will show you the picture again.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I remember I told this story the last time we got together, and I'll just tell it briefly again. For all of you New York people, this is probably just normal, but for a California kid, this was like otherworldly. So after I left the gig, I had my Andromeda in the flight case, and so I go out of the club at midnight or whatever it is, and of course it's Manhattan, so there's like a million people out, and I can't get a taxi. Like, I need to get back to the hotel. I can't get back to carry this flight case, a mile back to the hotel through Times Square. So I get one of those bicycle taxis, like guy in the bicycle with like the seat in the back. And I said, well, I have this keyboard in a flight case. He's like, no problem, just put it in the back. So I literally sat in the back of this bicycle taxi with the Andromeda in the flight case next to me, like looking like a comet. And the bicycle taxi like drives me through Times Square back to the hotel. That was my New York experience.
I've never seen a bicycle taxi.
You know, I wanted to stop at the Sabrettes along the way and like get a hot dog, and so I would have a whole experience. But
An orange soda.
Well, I'm glad you made it. Thanks, Erik. Let's move on to Andre. I don't have a picture of Andre, unfortunately, but he did play with Don, and I have a picture of Don, so Don will represent Andre as Andre represents Don. And Andre was a member of the Don Preston Akashic Ensemble, so there you go.
Yeah, the Akashic Ensemble, yeah. Yes, this was very limited technology. I apologize to everyone that I got the irony of being somewhere where I couldn't reach Google or Gmail or YouTube. So it's been really interesting. But I did dig up that picture. I guess you're showing the picture of Don in my studio. Is that right?
No, but I can show that picture if you like. This is Don
okay.
on stage, of course.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
All right.
So some memories. Don. I always encourage people to do some research on Don because he's one of the most unsung, talked about legends in synthesis, and yet he's one of the more important ones. One big reason is he was making his own synth in the 50s. He knew the Barons, he knew Lewis and Baby Baron. If you know from Forbidden Planet, you know they did incredible and so important soundtrack, right? And he knew them and hung around with them and kind of knew their studio with, which was really just like raw oscillators and a lot of tape machine stuff, reverb machine, everyone knows that history. But when it comes to that, he would shop around in the late 50s, army surplus stores and radio shops and stuff like that. He was making little synthesizers, and Frank Zappa went to see him in the early 60s. And he kind of turns Zappa onto like a stranger type of music. That's one thing with Don. And then the other thing to look up on him is he played piano with Nat King Cole in the 50s. He played, Zappa's band for those 6 or 7 years. I think it was 66 to about 8 years. Then he played with a long list of people that it's a popular list of people like Leo Sayer and Rob Krieger, all these people. But he worked with Patrick Gleason on the Apocalypse Now soundtrack, and he did this incredible solo on a track called Waka Waka on the Grand Wizard. This track, it's not the Grand Wizard, but he played a solo that he made his own expression pedal. And
Andre,
plugged it into the synth. Yeah.
I'm gonna pause you for a minute. Everyone else, can you hear him speak coherently?
I'm getting a breakup.
Oh, it's picking up.
I'm wondering if
Yeah,
I
it's a
should
little
request
iffy.
that you drop your video and see if we get better audio.
Sure. Let me. How do I do that? Let's see.
Thank you.
Do I just?
You just mute the
just
video.
Turn the camera off.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. Awesome. How's that?
Can you count to 5?
Am I better? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, way
much
better.
better.
Yeah. Thank you
Okay,
very
awesome,
much.
Awesome. So I was just saying that in brief, Don, I think is very unsung because he did a lot of stuff before even 1960 in synthesis, and I was saying that he knew the Barons who did Lewis and B.B. Barron who did Forbidden Planet, and any synth fans out there probably know that. I'm sure the soundtrack to that great movie. So Don kind of comes from that generation of going to Army Navy shops and radio shops and just buying old parts and pieces and oscillators and test equipment, and making synthesizers. So when he met Bob Moog in the 60s, Bob was, it's kind of right around when Herb Deutsch was working with Bob, from what I understand. And Don was kind of there when it was just a lot of wires and kind of light switches and, you know, the early versions. So really beautiful history of Don's that I think people would be interested in, and some of it's been documented, but I think not enough. Jumping ahead to a little bit about the show, though, we had this great trio. We toured a lot, and it was kind of partially improv, partially composed Don's music, and partially, you know, I'm struggling for the title of it, but kind of that avant-garde thing where there's instructions, you know, to play different things in structure, you know.
Yeah, kind of like a graphic score situation.
Yeah, graphic scores, and, you know, so controlled chaos is kind of the phrase I was looking for, where we had these really cool pieces that had often a little bit of a chart, a little bit of chord changes, a little bit of conducted stuff from Don, but a lot of open space that you could really do the things that open synthesis allow you to do. And that's kind of, you know, a lot of the memories. I'll say too that I think Bob Moog was at that one, wasn't he?
Not the 2007.
Not that one?
No, he unfortunately left us before the second one.
Yeah, he was only at the first.
Okay.
Yeah, he was only there at the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we must have played the first one also, because I remember Bob being there, and I remember Don Buchla being there.
Oh, is that so? According to,
yeah.
I mean, Wikipedia could be wrong, but
he was
according
on the first list. Don was there. I have him twice. He was there the first one.
According to Wiki, Don was there on at the 2000. Hold on, let me see. At the 2005 one, but Bob didn't attend that one though. As far as
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he would only been at the 4 one then.
The cloudiness of 18 Years Memory, you know, I met them each at, well, I met Bob Moog a few times before that, but I remember they were each at one of those, and my brain is crossfading them into one thing.
I know what you mean.
I'll say, I'll say too that Don is still very much with us. He's 92.
Wow.
And he just played a couple piano concerts, solo piano concerts. He's been doing that, and he's you know, we were gonna have him on this, but he's right there at 92, where he has some trouble sometimes with all of this technology, you know, getting on a stream and finding. So but it's beautiful that he's still with us and still playing, and he plays piano every day. He plays tennis a lot, and he still does a fair amount of synthesis and kind of strange electronic music. So I'm honored to be, you know, just here as one of the band members. And hopefully that you know, painted the picture that you like. Open to any questions too, like everyone else is.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks, Andre. I have a question for Rick, though. With all of us eclectic artists jumping all on one stage with our own preferences and wishes and all that, did any of us give you a hard time?
No.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
I don't recall any problems. Like you said, you know, I map everything out. So, but now that you mention it, no. No one was a pain in my ass.
Oh, very good. With that, I wanted to show the program. Before I show the program, I wanted to show you pictures of me on stage, which I almost forgot because I was there. And here's the program. There are 13 items that took place that night. And this is my copy of the program. Again, I saved everything.
Wow.
And here's another picture of the stage, but front on. and you can see the number of equipment on stage, and there's so many people to deal with. Rick, I was curious, how did you go about assigning space for each item or each act? Did anyone put in their preference, or you went ahead to do
well,
it? Yeah.
like I say, the diagram you showed has those notes,
Yeah.
the quick notes to myself. But I mean, I don't. Geez, I'm looking at myself. I don't recall hooking all that up. So I don't know. Maybe BB King's had something to do with it.
Oh, you think?
Because right. I mean, I have you all mapped out your areas, but you know that I don't really like remember saying, "Wow, I'm overwhelmed with equipment."
But
you know, it was,
how did you decide in the stage plotting who to put where?
hmm.
Do you go with the headliner first? Do you say, oh, headliner has,
No, right. You know, that's the thing. Like, there's some kind of an order to the bill. You know, and I mean, you got all these, like you're saying, you got all these people, who have very famous people, and no, I don't know. We just maybe Carlini did it. We just did it. I mean. Carved it up and gave, like you said, the middle is always the sacred, and it worked out. Sometimes, like you say, people having racks, and like we had to put Keith Emerson at that. He actually was the headliner with Wakeman, but we had to put him on that far right little piece of property. So he was he played in the first one from where who do I got from where you are? He played in your spot because of the like I said, that equipment that he had kind of forced us that way. Yeah. It was the only place you could have that and everything else also. And Rick Wakeman had a grand piano. So.
I recall
like that. That's the stuff. Getting like equipment like that, a piano, making sure it's tuned right. Like how do you move it right without detuning? Lots of stuff.
Yeah,
I fall into it. Then, like you asked me that question once when we were on the phone. How did you prepare to be a stage manager? And I didn't. I just, you start helping someone, and like I said, that person got fired. That person took me with them to Jazz at Lincoln Center also. So I got Chesky. And when Jazz at Lincoln Center opened, the three of us were on this archive recording team.
Thanks, Rick.
Like that.
I do recall requesting for the corner of the stage because I was playing the Etherwave Pro. And I didn't want anyone walking around me, in front of me, or come anywhere near me. So I said, can I have a corner piece, please?
That's it. It all worked out, right? I don't remember any battles. It was great. That's how it goes.
Do any of you, Neil, Tom, Eric, Andre, recall requesting a piece of real estate? Or you left it to the organizers? No one did? You left it to...
No, I didn't request. I don't remember requesting anything. It was like, here, this is your spot here. And I was, yes, sir. That's all I remember.
Do you remember working with the organizers for load in though? Because it must have been awkward trying to all load in at the same time or set up at the same time. I recall there was an order to things, but I don't remember the details. Tom, you look like you do.
Well, it's just that, it's kind of playing on what Eric was talking about with the bike taxi and loading out of BB King. Loading into BB King's is burned into my core memory as like super stressful because you're on 42nd Street and you're just like, because it was so fortunate to, like we were saying, like have gear there to play that you could choose from. But there've been times when I've had to load in there and it's like, how do you do it? Like if you're going yourself, you have to have like a partner to make sure the car doesn't get immediately ticketed or towed or something. You're just like, there was this whole New York City dance that you learn how to do where there's just, boggled my mind how any of that stuff got in there in the first place or out. But I remember it was a challenge.
Were you given a time slot? Do you remember?
I don't know if it was like specific to us or if it was just like artists get your stuff in at this hour or whatever. It might have been like an open call for everybody to get there at a certain time.
How about setting up? Did you have a certain time slot for setting up? Or did we all just jump on stage and do our thing?
File not found.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I do remember this, that there was a schedule for us to sound check.
Okay.
Yeah.
And normally, like at a festival, you sound check in reverse order.
Exactly.
It was not that way for this. It was, we were just sort of sound checking I didn't see the logic to it, but it went really smoothly. I mean, this was like, okay, Eric, you're sound checking at 3:45, and got up there, did my thing, and got on. I remember, just sitting around talking to Herb Deutsch while waiting to sound check, and I remember having a great conversation with him about the Moog Road. Tom, you brought that up. It was awesome. It was just like, he's like, oh yeah, that's the thing I worked on. It was like he worked on it last week. That was how fresh the conversation was.
Cool. So I can only assume that some of you used the same synth backline. Such as you and Tom, I think, used the Kurzweil PC-88 from Pictorial Evidence. And perhaps...
And the Little Fatty.
And the Little Fatty, right? So then you couldn't have sound checked right after each other, or do you recall if that happened?
Yeah, I mean, my rig,
Yeah.
like I put my rig together,
Yeah.
and I sound checked, and then they struck the rig.
Oh.
Because obviously Tom would have been using those same keyboards, so. And
Wow.
then we just put it back together again for my set.
Wow. How quick did they put it together?
Quick.
Were there like numerous people just assembling it like in an instant kind of situation?
I don't really remember, but I remember not being stressed about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's how much confidence everyone had in you and your team, Rick.
There you go, man. I'm thinking back. I go, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been the one. As you mentioned, usually you sound check in reverse order of a show that has a run of show list, and so I'm sure I didn't do that, but I'm sure I was there and waiting to. So like I said, that's the one though. I had problems with that sound guy myself. He could have been that guy. I don't know why it was going that. I couldn't present a reason for that to happen. So it wasn't for me.
Wow.
I would have done what you do.
Yeah. Interesting.
There was some other factor at work there.
So there you go. I wanted to say hello to two of our friends in the live chat as well. Coulter, hi, nice to see you. I'm sure you're here to support Tom. And Gary, you're here too. No Thomas Dolby, Gary, yep. Thomas Dolby is hiding from the rest of the world. No, I'm back, just being silly. Hi, Thomas Dolby. I recall Thomas Dolby had a technical issue on that night as well. It took quite a while for him to resolve it, but everything went on as planned eventually.
Yeah, that was if I could jump in.
Yeah,
that
Andre.
was that provided and he was great about it. He made a joke about it, but I remember watching it, his screen, all of a sudden, one of the software packages he was using, it was a trial one, and either like one of those things where it ran for a half hour or it ran for 2 days, whatever it was, it ran out in the middle of the show. So I remember suddenly on his screen, which he was mirroring his screen on the on the big screen of BB King's, because it was cool graphics and stuff, and I think it was a shot of him playing, whatever it was. But suddenly there's this. I remember as those things went, it emitted a sound. So suddenly it was like,
Oh boy!
there was this tone, and there was this thing. Please purchase this test version software or reload. Whatever it was. But it was so funny, and he kind of had to fiddle around but it brings to mind something I've been thinking about listening to everyone's stories, the great stories, that what a quantum leap it is really from 07 to now, because again, that we were just getting, like, I remember buying whatever that English synth and electronic magazine was at the time. You'd get a DVD on the front, you get a free DVD and all this free software, and there was free versions of Reason and free versions of all these things, and we were just kind of getting into software that really worked, and it was pretty good for the masses. Of course, software, in the 80s we had software that worked, but you know what I mean, just these DVDs with free analog synth emulators and different effects things, plugins, and they all were kind of just always a little too ahead of the computers that were out. You really had to have an incredible computer. So I was just thinking about that, and just thinking about how much has changed in 18 years, where on your phone you can essentially do an album with an iPhone with GarageBand on there, and an iPad now has stuff on it that was that's 18 years ago. An iPad has stuff that's 60 years ahead, from 2007. So just some thoughts about that and how far we've gone. That's it.
Thanks, Andre. I wanted to show the program. The plot, stage plot once more, so you can see where Thomas Dolby was situated. And he even brought all his gear, so you can see a note there, off stage, front stage, where it says, bringing all his own gear or something like that. So even despite the fact that he brought all his own gear, and in spite of, I guess, he still had issues which no one there could have solved it for him anyway, because as you said, Andre, it was proprietary software. Interesting, eh? Yeah. So, anyone else have anecdotes about setting up and sound checking? What you think of any, if you do recall any, I just want to show some of pictures. Here's Neil and Herb. Neil's pictures are the only ones I have of the audience as well, the back of the heads of the audience, as you can see. And I don't know if Herb, is that a mini Moog? Looks like a mini Moog that Herb is playing. And I wonder if he brought that him. Did he?
Yeah, he brought his own mini Moog. It's
okay.
serial number 9 or something.
That's right. You did mention that earlier on.
He had a couple of them, and he loved that instrument. He wouldn't need. Yeah. People would offer him stuff all the time, but he loved his original, first generation, one of the first 10 made. I think he had serial number 7 and serial number 9. Yeah. Something ridiculous. And he used that. I played with him in Hofstra several times. He always had it. He always used it. Yeah. And it was always kind of out of tune. And, that charm that we all love so much.
Yeah, isn't it? To think that being slightly out of tune would be charming. But
and in this picture, you can see you see where he's playing it right. I can see it now. Yeah, he's standing to my right. Yes. And he's playing his original mini Moog. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Neil. Then
Yeah.
we have a picture of Tom with his band Spiraling. Did you use any of the backline stuff, particularly the drum kit, or did everyone bring in their own stuff?
I'm pretty sure that we used the house drum set.
Hey.
Yeah,
And,
as did we.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because that would have been, it would have looked like a Grateful Dead concert if we had all these drum sets and stuff. You showed the picture before of the stage setup, and I was
Yeah.
like thinking, is there a more glorious sight? Just seeing synths everywhere like that all over the front, But I could just imagine what a logjam of gear it would be. And Spiraling we were just one of those like, ring the bat phone. You got a gig? Okay, we're there. Any time we were okay. House kit. Okay, use this guitar amp. We were just so eager to play anywhere we could, and sometimes the accommodations weren't so great, but we knew that this was going to be good, so everyone just sort of like slotted into whatever was there for us.
Thanks, Thomas. Did you guys bring your own keyboard stands as well? Because I really despise going to a venue looking for keyboard stands that are rickety, because it's been like bashed against the floor by the previous band, or mic stands that don't work, that kind of thing. And you go, I'm just going to bring my own from now onwards.
It's sympathy for the drummers too, who have had to work with house kits with funky hardware and things like that too. But no, it was I remember everything being really cool.
Oh, very good. Anyone else with anecdotes?
I mean, I had the good fortune of like not using a keyboard stand because I had the remote. So keyboard stand issue was like not even a thing. And I had borrowed a Voyager, and somebody just handed me an X stand, and I'm like, okay, great, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. But I was in a time of my performing career where like I just did not use keyboards on stands if I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's food for thought. Thanks,
Yeah.
Neil. Thanks, Tom. Erik, again, I only have this photo of you. It's really sad. I've hunted high and low for more photos, but I'm sorry. At least I have one that I've replicated. Do you want to say anything else about your solo set?
Yeah, that was during sound. I'm sure that was during sound check.
Yeah, I know. Because the question was really about, it being celebrating the Moog legacy. Did you consider your setup or your set list? Did you pick the songs that you play because it had some kind of association with the Moog legacy, or you just picked something that you enjoyed playing and the Moog synths fitted into the song, so that you were already playing Moog synths with these songs?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I remember I did my cover of the Space 1999 theme.
Oh.
That always went over really well. I know Adam Holzman likes that one a lot. And I basically do, on the original version, the melody's done on this kind of like surf guitar sound, and I always do that with a mini Moog lead sound. And so I would have played that on the Voyager at the show. And then I use the Andromeda like the big synth brass, like the big, kind of Keith Emerson brass sound. And then I did two other original pieces of mine, both that had kind of gratuitous melodic Moog leads. And I probably split those between the Voyager and the Little Fatty. And again, I didn't use any presets on those because I wasn't familiar with the synth, so I just dialed them in real time, which was pretty fun.
Thanks, Erik. I like the use of the word gratuitous next to synth lines. How about, before I get to Andre, but for the collective, did you exploit the gratuitous synth line in your show, in this particular event, for your performance? We'll begin with Neil. Did you play any gratuitous synth lines? Or did you pick, I guess you didn't, right? You had Herb play the Moog synth, whereas you played a Roland.
Yeah, well, I just used what I had. I didn't know that there was backline available, but I
Yeah.
did borrow a Voyager
Oh, that's right.
and structured the set to specifically do like a 30-second or 1-minute feature with just, I wrote a few patches and was able to like do that kind of thing that Emerson used to do, where he would just freak out with the modular for a couple
Oh,
minutes. The
okay.
band would stop and he would just do a modular synth freak out. And I thought, oh, that's a nice addition.
Yeah.
Featuring the Moog instruments in a legacy concept anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
So I did that, but what was the question again?
Yeah, you gave me a good answer. We accept that one.
Okay.
How about Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, because Spiraling's music was more song oriented, I guess you would say. We
Yeah.
weren't doing a lot of solos, but we knew that the occasion called for it. So I think we extended a part of our song so I could just start soloing on the Little Fatty and sort of celebrate Moog that way, pretty much.
Thanks, Tom. Andre, if you're still there. Hello, Earth calling Andre. I wonder if he's left.
There it is.
Oh.
I just have to figure out how to unmute. Yeah, very much listening and enjoying. The question, refresh my memory on the question.
Any synth lines or performance devices that would have been expected of a synthesizer type performance, particularly associated with Moog?
Well, we had the two Voyagers on stage. I'm trying to remember if Don had one on the road with him or we used the backline. That's definitely in lost to the sands of memory. But we had two Moogs on there, and I think I remember back then the Moogfest I think had a thing where they kind of gently suggested that every band had some Moog device. Am I remembering wrong? Was that part of it? Anyway, we had a couple, and I remember Don really had not used the Voyager much, and much like Erik said, I remember he just kind of jumped in and with his many years using mini Moogs, just kind of made some patches and was still just kind of blown away that you could save these patches. But we had those two. I don't think we had anything special other than that. I used the MP201 a bunch. That's the Moog control pedal that came and went, and somewhere in there I had one.
Right back.
I can't remember if I had it by 07. That's kind of right around where it came about, but that would have been the most kind of specific synth kind of strange thing, I guess, if I had the MP201.
Thanks, Andre. I'm just curious if any of you remember Rick from that night, our stage manager. Did any of you interact with him? Or you were too caught up in your own issues, I better set this up the right way, I gotta get the right sound, and oh no, I left my cable in the car. Where is the car? Do you remember interacting with Rick?
Yeah, he was great. I remember it very well. Everything was very organized and very smoothly.
Anybody else remember Rick?
Oh, my battery's low. I'll be right with you.
Nobody else?
I always remembered Rick's name, and having being at a couple Moogfests, I got to work with him a couple times, and it was. I always thought he had a lot on his plate because there was this filled stage with all this stuff set up at the same time. And, he definitely was always on the run. But good memories.
I didn't think of it. Using more power than.
I remember that there was a stage manager, and he seemed to be really efficient. I don't remember meeting him formally. He came and said, okay, hey, nice to see you. You're going to be over here. Just show me where your outputs are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the program. Your sound check is X, and that was it. That was the extent of my interaction with Rick.
Yeah, I don't quite actually recall, but I have always wondered, and I'll go back to the pictures. I've always wondered who was in charge of putting, or is it the dressing rooms together? I got the one and only picture of the one that Neil, Herb, Dolby, and my band used, and I'm sure you've seen this one, Neil.
The little one. It was the little dressing room.
Yeah, little
right
one.
Right off the side of the stage.
Yeah.
Because there are all the big ones in the back.
Oh, I see. All the big ones were taken.
Yeah, we got shoved in. Like I said, I played there with the machine multiple times, so I knew the whole layout of the backstage. And like Tom was talking about getting in, if you're looking at the club, to the left is a double metal door which opens to a corridor which takes you to an elevator which you can use to get your gear downstairs.
Oh.
But the only reason I know that is because I've loaded in that way a dozen times already. Otherwise, you would never even know that it was connected with the club. It's like you don't even. They're like magic doors, and just when they're closed, they just vanish. You don't even see them.
Oh.
I don't remember how we loaded in that day, but
me neither.
Yeah, that's the picture. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I don't recall how I loaded in. Thankfully, we had E-drums supplied by Yamaha, so I just brought in my E-Pro and my Kurzweil with all the sounds already programmed. So, but I don't recall how I dragged it in and out again.
One thing I remember, just on a side note, is I met you and the gentleman you were working with at the time.
Yeah.
His name
John.
I can't remember. Yeah, and you guys were so nice, and I felt like such an outlier because I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know Tom. I didn't know Eric. I didn't know. I might have met Andre somewhere along the line, but I don't recall even. I certainly didn't know Don. And Thomas was not hanging out in the dressing room. He was gone somewhere.
Yeah, he went to buy some sneakers, remember? He told us in so few words that he was going out to get some sneakers. I don't know why he didn't give us a reason. He just kind of mumbled something. Hello, Thomas Dolby, we love you.
But I just remember hanging out with Xenobobs, and you guys were so nice, and it was like
thanks.
We were like in the center of this hurricane of synth equipment and musicians. It felt like insane.
Thanks, Neil. We love you too.
I definitely remember picking up stuff going through Manhattan with like one of those carts.
Oh yeah.
Pushing boxes of stuff from where Charles lived up to, which was 53rd or 4th Street, and up to, right up to the club, right through the street.
Wow.
That's
yeah.
how we got it there.
I can imagine the chaos. So since Neil brought up the fact that he wasn't familiar with most of us there, I'm curious if the rest of you were familiar with anyone there that night before you became acquaintances and, of course, friends.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with Tom. Thomas, did you know anyone there or everyone there?
I knew Jordan Rudess. It's funny, I actually seen Jordan doing clinics at music stores at Rondo Music in New Jersey, and I was probably like 15 or something, and it was like you get the brochure like come this Friday to Rondo Music Clinic with Jordan Rudess, progressive rock, and I was like, progressive rock, I'm there, I got to see this, but then years later we would be on the bill with we played, Sparling played at Cal Prague Festival, and Jordan was there with Rod Morgenstein and their duo. And I would tell Jordan about that. I saw him at those clinics, and he got a kick out of that. So, but I do want to say, you showed the picture of the backstage, the dressing rooms and stuff. One of my enduring memories of the backstage hang was meeting T. Lavitz. That was so awesome for me because, you know, when I got into playing keyboards, you know, Keyboard Magazine was really big for me. And one of the first issues that I got was had the sound page, the record that you could pull out of the magazine and play on your turntable, and it was T. Lavitz that was the first one I heard, and so he was like one of my first, you know, inspirations for synth soloing and in jazz rock fusion and stuff, and he was such a cool guy, a funny guy. He had everybody laughing, and I had no idea that this was his personality, and so I feel pretty really grateful among all the other things that came out of that experience playing Moogfest to have met T.
Cool. Do you know, or have you kept in touch with, you know, most of those who were playing that night or worked that night? Because I know there were people, editors of magazines and, you know, people in the music industry, but not performing that night.
Well, stay in touch with Jordan a lot. Like we've done a lot of he had me as one of the instructors in his Jordan Rudess Key Fest
I recall
for several years. And you see Erik, you know, we worked and you know, another thing that I'll mention is that we talk about how the gear has had such a profound impact on us, and what a personal connection the instrument is. And Neil was talking about Herb Deutsch's early Mini Moog. I saw him use that too. He did a presentation at Rutgers University, and he carried that too. And I remember that it was like, it was different, and it was just such a cool thing that he brought that with him. And years before Moogfest, when I got called to play for Yes, and I learned that I got the gig, this was in 2001, the first thing I did was I went on eBay and I bought a Mini Moog. Like, buy it now. I'm the keyboardist of Yes now. And much to my chagrin, I learned that the guys from Yes did not want me touring with a Mini Moog because they're like, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to take care of all the maintenance yourself. They're like, they just remember all the tribulations of touring with them in the 70s, right? So, and John Anderson he wanted something new, right? So he's like, I want you to get something new. So I was like thinking, okay, how can I work this loophole? So there was this new synthesizer at the time called the Andromeda that Erik had helped develop, and so I said, oh yeah, I got this brand new synthesizer Andromeda, not realizing, you know, they didn't know that it had the analog heart and soul that I was looking for, you know. So I used the Andromeda with Yes, and on the Symphonic Live DVD, and I still have it. Still works great. Doesn't leave the studio, but I still had that Mini Moog that I thought I would be taking on tour with me, and I used it on the record. My records ever since. And in fact, you watching can see it. It is right here next to Neil. He got that Mini Moog. That's the one that I got back in 01 right there.
Oh, I remember. I was in your studio when Neil came to look at it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you remember.
Yeah, that's right, Julia. You were there. No, this is a different Mini Moog.
No! What happened?
Dude, I still have yours. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
I'm not getting rid of it. It's just it's down for maintenance right now. Keyboard contacts need to be cleaned and stuff. But somebody, a friend of mine named Wayne Cobham, who was a trumpet player and cousin, I think, or brother to Billy Cobham, who's a local jazz musician who lives in New Jersey around me. I've done a bunch of gigs with him, like we're friends, and he calls me up. He goes, dude, I found this thing in my garage. I know it's worth money and it doesn't work, but I think you should have it. And he gave it to me. Now, I went to a music synth restoring place in New Jersey, in Philadelphia. I can't remember what they're called right now, but they restored it. Now, the one I bought from you is beautiful. It's in pristine condition. I don't like taking it out of the house. I used it on one gig once. And I'm like, you know, this thing is going to get beat up. This thing that he gave me that he found in his garage, it's like it had handles drilled into it. The case is destroyed. So, you know, it's ideal for gigging. So, but don't worry, I still have the one I got from you in the parking lot
Nice.
in the parking lot at like outside of Mahwah, New Jersey, or something. And
The deal was going down.
yeah, we were like, here it is, man. You got the cash, you know.
You guys need to get our new Getty Lee Model D.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, sure. Just yeah. You come up with the You go ahead. You have that. Like that's what I need a third one.
Yeah, you do. Of course you do. We
Yeah,
all.
I don't think so.
Great.
Eric, I was gonna give you a little spot to talk about the two synths, and I'll let you know when it's available to you in this live stream. But I wanted you to tell us if you knew any of the folk on stage that night, or were you like a stranger to everybody, and who became fast and firm friends?
I knew several people. Like all of us, I guess I knew Jordan. I knew Andre. And Tom, we met, I know we had done a bunch of festivals like CalProg for sure. I think we did,
Yeah.
I don't know if we did Rosfest or if you were just there because it was local. I remember there was one Rosfest where there was like kind of an after party jam. And
That's right. I was playing drums and you were on keys.
That's right.
That's right.
It was sort of like this VIP party, and they were kind of fussy about who they were letting in. I'm like, this is my friend Tom. He played with Yes. And they're like, if they could have rolled out a red carpet and sounded trumpets, they would have done that. I mean, like everyone's eyes just were like, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, who else did I know? I don't know. I don't think I knew any of the other performers, but yeah, it was great to meet T. Lavitz. Like Tom said, I grew up listening to him. I used to see him at this little club in Santa Monica called At My Place. And he was just amazing. He'd show up and played like an OBXA and a CP70. Just unbelievable. Then, just to meet him, and he was just super funny, just did not stop talking the whole time until he had to go play his gig. He went out, he did a set, and he came back in, and then he just started talking again. He was just hysterical and really warm, fun guy. I don't think I got to meet Thomas Dolby. I think, like you guys said, he kind of kept to himself.
Yeah.
But it was a really nice group of people all the way around. And we've all kind of stayed in touch over the years.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of crazy to realize it was 18 years ago, though. Like you said, you played it when you were 12 years old, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I was only 9.5.
I couldn't drive. That's why I had to take the bicycle taxi.
Oh. Thanks, Eric. How about you, Andre?
Yeah, Eric, I think, Eric and I are very good friends since this time, and we would hang out anytime I was with a band in Sacramento. I would get to see Erik and Lana, and now he's in Nashville. We're actually, I've not seen him yet since he lives in Nashville, so we laugh about that. But I think, Erik, I might have met you then. I can't remember meeting him before this. You may be correct, though, that we met before, but that was early in our friendship. Neil, I think I'd seen his band, The Machine. My band was on a bill with them once, so we kind of knew who each other was. And I remember one time my band and his band played in the two separate rooms of a club in Burlington, Vermont. And we were all in the same hotel. And Neil, do you remember this? And we invited you up to Don Preston's bedroom because he had to his hotel room because he had the Shirley. If you put the picture up of Don in my studio, you'll see it. He had the EMS that he borrowed from someone in Tangerine Dream. I forget who, but I remember Neil coming up to the hotel room, and we kind of, he had you played one at that time in your life, an EMS?
I had never played one before. No, it was the first time I'd ever
Yeah,
got seen one in person. I have a
yeah.
picture of it here somewhere, if I can
I
find it.
vividly remember that night of just kind of nerding out on the EMS. So I think and Tom also might have been the time I met Tom. I was a fan of Tom's. I knew him because I also lived in New Jersey for many years and kind of heard him a few times. So that was early in friendship for Tom and I also. And Tom and I have become friends. And, I worked for Yes starting in 2011. So I'd see Tom at shows, or I'd see him at Craig Lake shows or Emerson Lake, whatever. But I think for me that night in '07 was, like a lot of first meetings of people. Um, and I'm sure we met, Shirley, and I remember, that it was unique that someone had a theremin, and all just very, on the one hand, I wish I could see some of these pictures. Actually, it would jog my memory. I'll see this video in a couple days, but it's kind of cool going back and remembering. As I said, what I remember is that it was such an exciting time. We can't take it for granted now, I think, because now there are 10 million synthesizers out there, and the Moog, Oberheim, ARP via Korg, the B word, there's all these synths, all these other companies, Korg.
B-word.
I mean, the last 10 synthesizers Korg has released, it's been amazing. And in '07, really there was the Voyager, and kind of the software thing is where we thought things would go, and you really didn't have, modular stuff hadn't blown up for another 2 years. Think about that. This is pre the modular revolution, which is astounding when you think about it. Like, so that's what I keep thinking as I sit here listening to people talking about the gear they had at this show. How remarkable 18 years has been, in a wonderful way, because there's so much to learn and so many things to learn with. But for me, hearing all this, it's wonderful memories, because for 4 or 5 of you, it was the beginning of really wonderful friendships in my life. Because I distinctly remember Erik Norlander setting his stuff up, and I remember just going like, "Oh my God, that's Erik Norlander." He, I've seen it in magazines, and he played with Asia and all this stuff. And I, said hi, and we kind of, so yeah, kind of real time, Erik. I'm thinking that's when we met.
That's so cool. Well, you're at new synths. I'm going to start with you, Andre. What is the latest addition to your synth collective? What's the most recent addition? And perhaps why? In one sentence.
Yeah. Well, some little module for Make Noise, and I live in Asheville, which is very important because I live where the Moog is, but also Make Noise. So I got a module from them. But I think the most recent synth I got that's a full-on hardware synth would be IK Multimedia. One of their Uno analog little tabletop synths. Which again is wonderful, and the fact that the market is littered with so many amazing synthesizers is exciting. But I don't buy that much gear, so there it is. It was a very run-on sentence, but it was one sentence.
Thank you, Thomas.
Well, can it be a keyboard instrument that's not a synth?
Sure.
Well, I realized a dream that I've had for decades, which was, just backing up a little bit, I recently found a studio space for myself, and I there's a nice healthy sized main room, about 25 feet by 15 feet. And I was thinking, you know, I can accommodate a grand piano in here. And then I said, wait, I can accommodate a serious grand piano in here. And I started looking at Steinway grands, which I had owned a medium size M or 5'7" Steinway, but years ago, and I no longer had that. But I was like, all right, I'm going to get the dream piano, and I started playing. And of course, I played a couple of concert grands, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a dream, right? And I was thinking, well, you know, they have been making that model for about 100+ years, so they're out there. And there's a healthy restoration culture, and there's a lot of piano rebuilders out there. So I started looking in earnest for a concert grand, and they're not cheap either. But I couldn't believe it. Around November, a friend of mine who's an antique dealer, I told him, I said, I got to get word of mouth about this. I want a Steinway D concert grand, and if you ever see one come up, you know, let me know. And I kid you not, the next day, he called me. He said, there's an estate sale coming up in Lebanon, New Jersey, which is about a half hour from where I live. The first item on the list was a 1924 Steinway D concert grand that was once owned by Hazel Scott, the jazz pianist, who has an amazing story of her own. I was like, I got to get in there immediately and play this piano. And so I was fortunate to get in before the estate sale began and played on it. And I fell in love with this piano, and I own it now. So come to the studio and play the 1924 Steinway Model D. And just, I was trying to really get more concrete provenance that this was in fact a piano that Hazel Scott owned. And I reached out, I made contact with her son, Adam Clayton Powell III, who is actually on the staff at USC now. So I was able to find a contact for him, and I sent him pictures of the piano, and I said, do you think this was your mother's piano? And he without confirming it entirely, he believes that it was hers. So a lot of amazing history in this instrument. So I'm looking forward to recording it now.
Yeah, there you go. I'll have to come check out your studio yet.
Yes.
Yes, it's on my schedule of things to do.
You're all welcome to visit.
Thanks, Thomas.
The Moogfest special.
Neil, you've disappeared. Hello, Neil. Neil, where are you? I'll give him 5 seconds.
On a light note, I remember one of the things, it was Don Preston's 75th birthday. And
yes, it
Carlini, we gave him a cake on stage. I know Carlini showed up with these 2 bikini girls, and I was dressed like in my stage, looking like I should be up there. And I remember we gave him a 75th birthday cake. That was a nice memory.
I thought I had a picture of it, but I hadn't downloaded it, so sorry I can't display it. Yeah, no, that's true. Thanks, Rick. Neil, we're waiting for you. What was my question again? Latest addition to your synth collective. Name it and tell us why in one sentence, if you can keep it in one sentence.
Okay. One sentence. So one of my favorite synthesizers has always been the 8-voice, Oberheim 8-voice. And I was very fortunate. A friend of mine was liquidating some things in his studio, and he had the OB6, the Dave Smith Tom Oberheim combo module, and he gave me a good price, and I bought it, and I've been so happy with it that I haven't bought anything else since. That was about 4 years ago.
Well, there you go. That's succinct. Thanks, Neil. Next person is Erik, and Erik wanted to share a couple of synths with you, and I've got pictures of them, so let's get to the picture section.
There you go. Collection.
Yeah, Erik, I've got your first pick. It's the beautiful red item.
we go.
Yeah.
This is the Geddy Lee Mini Moog Model D that everyone needs to go out and buy. So yeah, as part of my role at Moog, as the director of product development, we did a special artist edition of the Mini Moog Model D reissue with Geddy, and I had known his management for a while, and they had been wanting to do something with Geddy and Moog, and I suggested a special version of the Model D. So we worked with our wood vendor that makes the cabinets, and we matched the red color that he used on the Grace Under Pressure tour, where they painted all the keyboards red to match Neil Peart's drums. And so we went through this whole ordeal with like trying to get that red exactly right. And then we put like the Rush Starman logo badge on the front, opposite the Mini Moog badge. We did a VCA mod to it, so it's not just a stock Mini Moog circuit. It is a little bit hot rodded, as we say. So it sort of has, I like to describe it as like the sound of going through like an LA2A or a Fairchild limiter. It's just a little bit creamier and smoother. Mini Moog is pretty creamy and smooth already, but this one is even more that way. And then it comes with, you know, some cool like case candy things. It comes with a special red translucent vinyl thing that we pressed up with a couple of Rush songs, Xanadu and Jacob's Ladder, that we had pressed up specifically to go with the synth. And then Geddy signed a certificate of authenticity for each one. So obviously each synth is signed and numbered. And there's a cool custom poster as well. So it's obviously a limited edition, and they're being sold through reverb.com exclusively in North America. And it's, I guess it's Thomann in Europe and Anderton's in the UK. But yeah, it was a pretty great experience, and you know, it was obviously super cool, and he really was focused on this and very much involved in the whole thing. And for myself, just being able to work on a Mini Moog like as a project was really exciting and rewarding.
Thanks, Eric. And the next picture is that of the latest addition to the Moog synth family, I believe.
Yeah. I haven't seen this picture, but you're telling me about this. There you go. Right, this is the Messenger. This is brand new. We just announced this at Superbooth in Berlin last week. This is our new $899 mono synth. I have one right here.
Oh, if you're not using it, I'll have it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I do kind of need it. But yeah, this is a pretty exciting synth. It's a 2 oscillator analog mono synth with a sub oscillator, continuously variable waveforms on each oscillator, and the sub oscillator actually has a continuously variable waveform that you can modulate independently, which is rather cool. And the filter is multi-mode, so high pass, low pass, band pass. The low pass can be 2-pole or 4-pole. And then this is the first Moog synth that has bass compensation on the ladder filter. So normally when you turn up resonance on a ladder filter, you have the bass goes away. Well, there's a button you can press now that will mix in one of the other modes to bring the bass back in again. So you can get the classic mode response, or you can use this bass compensation. So it's a little powerhouse of a synth. And for those of us that are fans of things like, you know, the Rogue and those compact synths from the late 70s and early 80s, this is very much the 2025 equivalent of that, with a whole lot more, of course, presets, MIDI, velocity, sensitivity, aftertouch, all that sort of thing, sequencer, arpeggiator, and so forth.
Cool, I like that it's got aftertouch. Aftertouch is my favorite friend.
Yeah.
I use it a lot. Thanks, Erik. So you just came back from Super Booth in Germany. Could you tell us in one sentence what was trending there?
Well, this was trending there, of course. I think this was really, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think it was very much the star of the show. And the other thing that was a big smash hit was my friend Lisa Belladonna did a concert at the very end of the show out on the outdoor stage there, and it was just phenomenal. And I don't think I've ever seen such a big crowd there in that little amphitheater they have there. It was probably over 1,000 people there, just captivated by her performance. So that was another highlight for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Erik. So we are heading towards the final leg of the live stream. I'm trying not to keep everyone too much longer, but I promise we will reunite once again in a few years. I don't know how many years will go by before I message everyone. Maybe not 4 years later, maybe 2 years later. We are getting older, so time is precious. But here's a question for Rick. Moogfest was our Moogfest 2007 was the last one held at BB King. Were you aware of this during its planning? I've always wanted to know.
No, I think I mentioned this to you. At the end of that night, we're packing out, loading out, and Bernie Worrell and I went up to the suite. They were having a little after party upstairs. We went up to I think her name was Eileen Moog, in which she was the daughter. And in talking in that little room, in the little get together, I said, hey, maybe next year, let's do the next one in Asheville. And, so your employees can kind of get in on it and all, like they can see. And I guess I thought, of course, they'd take us with them. And I guess they didn't. So that was, I said, I might have put the idea in her head, for heaven's sakes, but it's whatever. That one was strange all the way through for me. That was a weird one.
What do you mean by
that
weird?
That would attract those people down.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said that last one in the hotel was a weird one.
Oh,
drag them down. The one that they did in the ballroom.
Oh, the Hammersmith Ballroom?
Right.
That's the fifth one. Yeah, that was 2008.
Yeah. Right.
Do you recall how you felt after the 2007 one had completed? At the end of the whole show, everyone had left and you were standing there alone on stage. Do you recall what you thought about the whole thing? Were you happy about it? Was there
excited. I don't recall any. Dolby had problems, but like you said, there was nothing to step in. There was no fix. So when it's over, you have a satisfaction, of course, because it's planning. There was some people when Edgar Winter came, he had rehearsals times, and then I'd have to run rehearsals with him and whatever. All kinds of stuff comes up. It's great.
Thanks, Rick.
That's it.
Anyone in the viewing audience with a question? Question time before I present my last couple of questions to everyone here. Please put your questions if you have any in the live chat, please. Thank you. All right, last few questions. Artists, any indelible memory from that event other than the ones you have mentioned already? It doesn't have to be about the performance. Maybe it's something else, such as Erik's bicycle taxi anecdote. Anyone have any other they'd like to share?
I have just a little one.
Sure.
I remember Jordan Rudess performed with a gentleman named Richard
Lanehart.
and my friend, the guitarist from the Machine, Joe Pasquarello, who sadly passed away, was a big Buchla fan.
Oh.
And Richard had a Buchla, so
Yeah.
we were all very interested in what Richard was doing with the Buchla.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture that Rob, our photographer friend, took of a few of you hunched over Richard's setup. Yeah, you and Richard and who was it? I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Did you
learn anything from him about it?
Well, I learned, I continued to learn what I know about Buchlas, which is they are deep and mysterious instruments which defy all logic.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil. Anyone else with an extra memory of sorts?
I remember Bernie Worrell warming up. I remember standing kind of like stage left, whatever, getting some stuff set up and just him set up right in the middle and right downstage in the middle, and he had something else like a curse file or something, Yamaha or something. But that was great. I could picture that as clear as day because just, wow, Bernie Worrell.
Was that
next to him warming up?
Was that 2006?
Am I mixing it up? Was he on 07 or?
No, he was in 06.
06. Okay. So sorry, there I go again.
No, you're fine.
But, so much for my memory. But I'll defer to the other earlier memories I said then, because all the people on this thread were definitely there. So I mixed it up.
No worries.
But just I guess
this was the one with
meeting everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the one with Tom's band spiraling, Erik, of course, Jordan Rudess, of course, Neil T. Levitz, and of course Herb, Gershon Kingsley, of course,
right.
You were there, Dawn,
Popcorn.
And we had Adam Holzman, and of course our headliner, Dolby. That was
right,
the
that's
lineup.
Right. Adam was on.
I liked Adam. Adam, I
think, I would think I probably met Adam also on this gig, who's also a dear friend, and really, really special gig for me. But meeting everyone, but also standing there as we brought up before the Thomas Dolby performance, which again he was really great and made great humor out of it all. But just a great time.
Thanks, Andre. I have a last question, but before I present the question, we have a comment from our friend Coulter. I'll bring it into the screen. He says, apparently the show took place 3 months before I moved to New York City, so I'm bummed I missed it. Thanks, Coulter.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, so my last question. It's a quote from Herb Deutsch taken from our music and chat interview in 2020 when I first started this live stream series, and where he talked about his role as a composer and performer of electronic music. And I wanted your thoughts, each of you, to reflect on what he said. And he said this: I'm not just a performer to perform. I'm a performer to present something to people that I believe in. Think about it for a few seconds and final thoughts from you. We'll start with Neil.
Well, I mean, I think I can only speak for myself, but as a performing composer, I mean, yeah, that's entirely true. It's like you're writing music and you're presenting it and presenting your own work, and you're not just getting out there just to play and have fun. That's kind of like maybe a different thing. But when you're doing your own compositions, then you're really in a presentation kind of state of mind. So yeah, I concur.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I agree with your agreement. Thomas.
I think it's when you're performing, you're showing people what you believe in and what you value. And I think for us, why would we drag these analog instruments that can be unpredictable unless we thought that was important? It's not just for our own amusement, and that there's something at the core of the sound, and and when Spiraling played, I mean, I don't know how many of the groups had singing, but I'm singing my lyrics too. So of course I'm like trying to get my point across in that regard. But it's like, obviously you look at, like I said, that stage plot. Obviously we cared about celebrating this thing, but it's important to us in a way that it's hard to quantify it or hard to describe. But obviously we want to show people or show the audience that we care about what it sounds like and what we're expressing.
Thanks, Tom. Erik?
I think when you give a performance, it's important that you have something to say, and that's in the gear that you use, the sounds that you choose, the way that you phrase, obviously the notes that you play, vibrato you use, all of those things. And it can be not necessarily on your own original music. It can be if you're playing other people's music. I've done that quite a bit. I mean, Tom right now is playing in Kansas. He's happily written a lot of new Kansas music, which is awesome. But he's also playing music that was written 40 years ago. A lot of those great songs. And when I hear Tom play that, he brings his own thing to it. You don't go, oh, he's just playing it exactly like Steve Walsh. No, he's not. He's playing it like Tom Brislin. And that's important.
Thanks, Erik. Andre?
Yeah, I mean, what's there to add to that? The performance side is, rife with terror sometimes, but when you're in the zone and it's rehearsed and you're ready for it, it's at its very best. It's a very freeing thing. But if it's a new piece of music that you're presenting, right, you're kind of presentation is a good thought there. You're kind of bringing it out to the world, bringing it out of the workshop, bringing it out of the private world, of your little domain, your studio, your writing room, whatever. So that's a special moment. Like, oh my God, wait, other people are gonna, respond to this for the first time. So yeah, Herb was great, and met him several times, and he had a lot of things like that, a lot of really brilliant philosophical things. Yeah.
Thanks, Andre. Rick, you're the last one with a comment. Rick, you're also a performer and a musician. Do you have any thoughts on what Herb said?
Sure. I mean, I write songs, and that's where you say what you believe. That's the truth. I mean, that's it. I played in all kinds of music, played salsa bands, saxophones, and it was fantastic. You're just doing it. You're doing the truth. Definitely believe in it. It's called soul. That's how I think of it. But that's how I see that. You have it or you don't. I don't know. But that's the deal. Transmit it if you got it. Thanks. This was fun.
Thanks, Rick. I have one final picture to show before I wrap it up because it's late, and it's one of the group of us. Tom, you're not there. I believe you are out doing meet and greet or dealing with merch, unfortunately, but so
That's
you
right.
weren't captured here. But this pic and this one of Herb and Nancy and Carlini. Carlini is the one with the glasses, or Carlini, as you would say if you roll your R's. These will be fond memories that I will have, since I don't have much details left in my memory banks except for these photographs. But I want to thank everyone, Rick, Neil, Tom, Eric, Andre. You've been totally and utterly wonderful on this live stream. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves as well. And I want to wish you exciting projects ahead, and of course, to stay safe and stay well.
Yeah, and same to you.
Signing
Yeah.
off.
Thanks for
Likewise,
having
thank
us
you.
on, Shelley.
Thanks all of you. So I'm gonna get the theme page going, and I'll say goodbye to you while it's running, so don't go away yet. But I want to thank the audience, the viewers. You've been awesome too. Please like this episode and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and to be alerted to my next live stream. Have a great and safe weekend, and I'll see everyone again very soon. Here's the outro. Did you want to say ciao once more? Because I hit the outro while you were saying ciao.
No, it's fine.
All right, here we go. Here's the outro for real.